So welcome to another episode of the Business Exchange, How Business Works, which is brought to you by the American Business Council. The Business Exchange is really the podcast where we bring in experts and opinion leaders in different sectors to share insights and sometimes predictions about the subject matter of discourse. Now, that sounds almost very super formal. My name is Margaret Olele, and I'm your host. Today's episode we will focus on the theme for the International Women's Day, where we're going to be talking about inspiring inclusion and explore how they shape the evolution of societies and institutions. So we know when I saw that inspiring inclusion, and I would introduce our guest soon, and I'm almost tempted to ask our guest, but she has to introduce herself. So yeah. So inspiring inclusion means really creating the environment where every woman, irrespective of her background or identity or ethnicity or whatever it is, feel valued and respected and empowered to realize her optimal potential. So it requires really breaking down those barriers to equality, ensuring that we challenge those stereotypes that we know, and amplifying the voices of marginalized women. I know that by promoting diversity, equality, and inclusion, we can build a more just and inclusive society for all. I mean, this is really according to the United Nations Women Nigeria 2021, according to what my team pulled out. But despite steps towards gender equality, we have seen that in Nigeria, we continue to have issues where women face challenges, including limited access to education. The last podcast I had, she talked about as a woman shared with me, or my guest shared with me, how when a family has to make a choice, an economic choice between, or financial choice between getting a male child or a female child out of school because of fund the realities of the finances they have, that the lady or the female is pulled out of school, so even if she's the most brilliant. So that's a different story entirely. But yeah, so we see these challenges. We also see that in healthcare. We see that in political representation and every other thing you'd note. And very interestingly, in the banking sector, in Nigeria, from what we have right now, we have about 21 commercial banks, 860 microfinance banks, 5 discount houses at all. But we have about 9 female CEOs, and I knew that there was a lot of hue and excitement and cry about that, which showed that this is not it's not an everyday thing. And so it was like, oh, what a great celebration, what a great achievement. But again, let me not digress. Otherwise, I could go on. Our guest today is here with me is Taiwo Okwor. Taiwo Okwor is, it's been quite an existing challenge trying to get her on the podcast because she's a super busy person. But I'll let her introduce herself. Over to you, Taiwo.
Hi, hello. Thank you, Margaret, for inviting me to this podcast, and also, being able to work and collaborate with the American Business Council. So yes, name is Taiwo Okwor. I am a vice president in the investment at the Africa Finance Corporation. The African Finance Corporation is a multilateral and development finance institution focused on investing in infrastructure on the African continent. I'm also the co-chair of the 100 Women in Finance organization. This is a global organization with the mission to really empower women across different parts of the world to achieve career success, whether it's early stage, mid stage, and senior level. It's really organization is focused on the Mission 2040 ethos, whereby 30% of senior executive, leadership comprised of women by 2040. So that's a little bit about 100 women. I'm a co-chair of the organization in Nigeria. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Taiwo. So let's go right into the meat of the conversation, and something that pops up is the issue around mentorship. You know, when you talk about training and bringing people up to speed and moving to one thing or the other, mentorship always, you know, is always foregrounded, I would say. So can you give examples of how your organization has helped or is really helping to inspire inclusivity? I mean, quite frankly, I would have said you tell me a bit more about what you do, but you know, the organization is about, but I think you've already shared, giving us a snippet of that, so that works. So can we just see what you do, or can you share what you do in the space of mentorship?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Margaret. And, you know, when I think about the theme for, this year's International, Women's Day, the United Nations focused on investing in women. There are other themes around, focused on inspiring inclusivity. I think they all fall within the similar, remit. So when I think about what is it, inclusivity and what is an inclusive environment, I think of one whereby, an environment that promotes employee satisfaction in terms of retention, but also enables the organization to have a good reputation, essentially instilling trust and diversity of thought, diversity of the way they operate, and culture in the organization. And mentorship is one of that. Mentorship takes various forms. There's a formalized mentorship program. There's also mentorship that's not so formalized. In my organization, it's a mix of both. So you have a formalized mentorship program where a senior executive person or mid-career gets to work with an early stage career person to be able to offer their perspective with respect to opportunities, career development, and even sharing personal experiences as a business leader. So I would say that's a formal mentorship. There's also the informal mentorship. A lot of my relationship has developed from an informal relationship perspective, whereby I would approach somebody who I really admire in terms of the way they operate, their experience, and how they just relate generally, and see how I can learn from them. So that's an informal mentorship, and the organization also encourages that very, very seriously. I want to say a few things about the mentorship, Margaret, if you don't mind, right? That it is very important when it comes to women developing their career, right? And irrespective of demography, whether you're a mentor or a mentee, mentorship can play a big role in accelerating one's career. There's a lot of studies that have shown that employees who had mentors in the workplace are more confident in their abilities. They're actually more loyal, right? With respect to being retained in organization, they feel much more invested in staying in the organization. They're more likely to be promoted as well, and I think the final point is that they actually feel much more empowered. I saw it stats which said that people who are actually mentored relative to people who are not mentored, feel more empowered at the rate of 87%.
Really?
Relative to people who are not. So that, I think, for me, that was quite an interesting stats I came across. So mentorship is very, very important, and it can play a key role in women aspiring to their career success, whether it's even from a business perspective or outside of a business.
And would it really have to be always women to women? Why I'm asking this is the last, I think that was 2022, so we had this event for International Women's Day, and we had this CEOs who shared their insights on how they became, or how they're successful leaders, right? And it was amazing that everyone had to say, or every one of them said, my father contributed to who I am today, which I kind of found a bit odd, considering is it the Oedipus thing they say, but or whatever, I don't know. But you still find a lot of people saying that, leaning towards the fact that, sometimes it's not even a woman that mentors another woman to become an to reach her full potentials. But I don't know if you've seen that in your space, and it's not in the script. So
no, absolutely,
so like,
and that's why we're having this conversation. In terms of my experience, it's actually been more like men, right? Having male allies who have been very, very instrumental and supportive, towards my career. When I think about people who have approached as informal mentor, because like I said, it's more, I've used that more as opposed to a formal mentorship program. It's been mostly men. And I'm not surprised that people, there's been a lot of examples like that. So it's important to, have engage men more in terms of, having this very important conversation about providing opportunities for women. But yes, engaging male allies is the way that, you can have radical change. And my experience has been positive so far. I think sometimes the men will not be the one to approach you. You probably see something in them that you you really, you could learn, you could apply in your career, and they're always very receptive. My experience has been positive in that sense, actually. So it doesn't have to be woman to woman. We need it has to be, equal representation from both sides, I have to say.
Yeah, no, that's great, because I just want us not to close the door to that area of conversation,
Yeah.
because when people, we always get this impression that when it's International Women's Day, it's just all about, the women, not looking at all the factors or all the other contributors, so to speak, that have helped, shape the woman, or to even make the woman reach her potentials. So I'll go to issues around the initiatives aimed at empowering Nigerian women. Can we look at, are there models, or can you share some thoughts of how we can design and implement some of these to, address the issues around the intersectional nature of discrimination, and also to ensure that all women, like I said at the beginning, of all backgrounds and identities, kind of reach their potentials?
Yeah, thanks. Great question. So, I mean, we can't deny the fact that there are societal barriers, cultural barriers, political, and even psychological barriers, right? And unconscious bias towards, women, towards, give an example of if we have to make a choice between a male child and a female child, our societal thinking would still say, okay, actually, I'll choose a girl to leave school, even though she's smarter. I mean, that's that's it is quite surprising, but that's a reality, in this part of the world. So, those are some of the systemic barriers that actually exist, and they need to be overcome if we're going to, be able to enable, women and the girl child to be able to achieve their life's potential, right? And I will start off by things around training to overcome unconscious bias. I think one of the training that we did in my institution not too long ago was around training to overcome unconscious bias. Whether I would like it or not, I think we tend to operate with some form of bias where we are conditioned. We're brought up in an environment, whether it's interaction with our parents, friends, family, to have certain ways of doing things, and you just don't know about it. It only comes about maybe when you have to make decisions around maybe selecting between male or female, or even certain social interaction. But it's true. So training around overcoming certain unconscious bias, I would say, is one area. Having open conversations about, and this has to be from the top, right? We're talking right from, people that make decisions, like key stakeholders, having open conversations around, if we do want to make the most of, the half of the population in Nigeria, maybe it's 50 or 60% who are female. If we really want them to achieve their potential, we really need to start addressing some of the barriers that in around us, around education, right? Why would a male child be more entitled to get the education than a female child, considering that we're equally smart, and also having putting accountability. I don't have the right answer, but having accountability mechanisms in place, right? So, for example, if you are in a leadership position, what specifically are you doing to ensure that certain percentage of your female graduates or employees who come into play, who come in, are on equal path or footing than compared to the male peers, right? Because the reality is that we women, our paths and lives take different direction, and I think we need to be honest about that as well. Like, when you start your career, the trajectory might be slightly different, and you should be comfortable with that. So you might the companies need to make sure that they provide equal pay. There's transparency around maternity and paternity leave for male and female. I think people are doing it, but I think it's just
do we have
slow.
paternity in Nigeria now? It's I'm not sure.
I think my
Well, I
experience is that
a
they
great
have it.
idea.
I think my institution, they have it, but it's
Okay.
not a lot. And I think some institutions have it, but the other interesting thing is that men are not taking this thing. That is also part of the barriers, the unconscious bias. I remember when I was in England many years ago, when paternity leave was introduced, men were not taking it because of the perception of from their friends and peers that, what are you actually doing? You're not the one that was had the baby. But that's not the point. The point is that you should be there for your partner to support. And they started
And
mandating it.
even to bond with your child, hey,
Yeah,
at the
but
early stages,
so it goes to the it's a systemic thing and bias. So until a lot of the senior men started taking it in the organization, they were talking about big institutions and banks, the investment international institutions, Margaret. Until those men started taking the parental leave, people were not taking it. But now it's now become much more, people are now much more comfortable to take paternity leave. People are now much more even comfortable to split paternity leave between them and their spouse. But I think we have a long way to go in Africa and Nigeria to do that. But I'm saying that there is progression.
Yeah,
People
well,
feel,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. So it's policies training around overcoming, unconscious bias, having open conversations, and I think that also at the local level, improving access to women education is very important, right? We need to have more capital direction towards that, encouraging, girls to go to school while at the same time being mindful of certain certain religion context, if you know what I mean, because that's also
Hmm.
important. You can't go gun blazing in certain parts of Africa or even Nigeria to say, okay, you know what, you got to send your kids to school. They're not going, the approach is also very important. They're not going to be very
Hmm.
receptive to that. So it's trying to find ways to orient them, whether you're going to combine, okay, education with, and I was thinking about this before our call, combining them getting education with also learning skills and trade, right? So that they are also enhancing both their human capacity and financial capacity. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So they're
Hmm.
earning.
Hmm.
So that could be a way to orient the parents' mind towards this education thing. There has to be maybe additionality for them to appreciate why education is so important.
Hmm.
If there is if there is certain natural resource, farming or land or something that, around where they live, how can you combine them going to school with also developing their skill set in that area? And at the end of the day, it brings benefits to the overall family. We just need to be very creative of how
Yeah,
to
yeah, absolutely.
attract
And
marginalized groups.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and in this world where digital technology has become in itself a source for even running businesses
Mm-hmm.
or doing even being able to um put them through or put women through such projects while going to
Correct.
school with the intention of not learning technology for the sake of it, but also really applying it into businesses
Correct.
could be a great idea. So
Yeah.
it's good. And it's like we're running right into the next question, or at least some thoughts to share, and that's
Mm,
something you had mentioned about education. So
mm,
I see that some, especially for some non-for-profits, they do some campaign around awareness or education, for ensuring that you have this gender equity in some way, or at least amplifying the voices of marginalized women. And obviously we have talked about some of the rules, but can you also share a bit more about what education and awareness campaign, can really do? Structured one, not those few ad hoc ones that people take pictures and show, oh, yeah, we've done this, but some kind of real structured campaign that can help you know, uh, ameliorate the issues around gender stereotypes and amplify the voices of women.
yeah, so interesting question. And I'm just, I'm thinking right now because when we think about, what lack of education does, right? Education, without education, your human capacity and potential is just limited. It's never realized, right? Without education, you're not able to tap into, you know, you know, some resources, the financial resources are out there to just, to better yourself, right? And that kind of has a multiplicative effect towards family and future generations, right? So it's so big. So what are some of the ways to orient people's mind in terms of campaigns? I'm thinking, so if you think about what their current situation is, right, versus what the turnaround could be if they're educated. So I think I'm just having like a flip side. I'm just trying to see how can we make that happen, right? What multiplicative effect would that be on the next generation, the environment, even their lifestyle going forward? Maybe that's one way to do, as opposed to shoving it down people's throat that, oh my God, your child has to go to school, there's, they have to have equal right. That's not, people don't like that kind of stuff. People want to see what benefits they're going to get from a holistic perspective, right? From, not only your family, but also the community aspect. Do you know what I mean? So how does me getting educated impact my own immediate family, and how does it impact my community? How does it impact my, my society, and even the country at large? Maybe those are the kind of targeted campaigns that we need to be thinking about when it comes to advocacy, right? It just might be, yeah, it's a bit more creative, and it could really move the dial. I'm not involved in UN and advocacy, but I'm just, based on my observation and why people are not so receptive. Maybe that's what we need to be thinking, right? How do you break the cycle of poverty and show them that, that kind of pictorial image? That could be something that, that could work. How, we have to take examples from other parts of the world as well, right? That could also be, very applicable as to what's worked and what hasn't worked. Using role models, Margaret, right? Role models who've actually, whose life have actually been impacted in a positive manner, starting from being in that situation and then turning their lives around, and the impact they've had in their own society and country could be an example as well, because people relate to, examples. They relate to, things that are very, very relevant to them. So that's one, that's one idea. I think, we could use as you speaking their language. You're not just using pictures from, I don't know, different part of the world and just very imagery. That's not going to work, I think.
Yeah, speaking their language, I like that. Because nothing works like understanding, thinking through, mutually agreed, even if it's from a more not necessarily cultural, but sometimes cultural. Sometimes you have certain thoughts, mutual thoughts, and mutual ways of life that can help people agree on or see and adhere to certain things, easily, than when you just kind of try and force things down on them, as an example. So I do, but when I saw this thoughts shared by my team, there was a part of it that said the voices of marginalized women, and I said to myself, oh, okay, so women are marginalized already. So who are marginalized? I mean, is there any category, or is just really when you're trying to say the poorest of the poor, the marginalized of the so I'm like, what are your thoughts around that? I mean, you don't have to answer, but it just got me thinking that okay, so who is a marginalized woman in Nigeria, as an example? Can we put some kind of demography and psychography around this person, in a sense?
I mean, what comes to mind for me is not having access to these certain fundamental things, like fundamental human rights. When I think about education, when I think about access to health, not be having the resource to afford it, right? For me, that's being marginalized, Margaret. I think, a lot of us we count ourselves to be in a very good position, but when you look at the population of Nigeria at large, a significant percentage of people, live below the poverty line, right? So that's I would say that's marginalized, right? Not being able to afford the healthcare, not being able to, you know, you know, send your kids to school, and even the school you send your kids to are not, um, they're not able to get a very proper, decent education. They're not being taught by the right, people with skill sets, because there are fundamental problems in the system, right? So people are marginalized, unfortunately, you know, you know, um, what's happened, they're marginalized because of the consequential effects of bad policies, bad governance, bad management. So that's why they are. It's not that they choose to be. Do you know what I mean? But it's a
Mm-mm.
combination of the failure of our system. Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I wanted to pull from that as well, but we're good. I wanted to talk about, the systemic failures and perhaps the role of government in this. But I think we should let government be government for now and focus on, international women's the conversation. Um, well, I mean, definitely, there's no society that can thrive. Without having government play some minimal role, even if it's just providing the right policies, to ensure that things go and things work. Yeah. So I would, because I see that I promised that we're going to kind of stay within the time and not get them remind us that we're running against time and things. But sometimes I get worried when I see a lot of these celebrations, especially like the International Women's Day. Lots of people put out events, and we are having one, and it's worth the while anyway. But that's but sometimes it just for some it just serves as a symbolic gesture, something you just have to do, and then you tick and say, oh yeah, done, right? But how can we move this from just being a symbolic gesture to being some catalyst for moving tangible actions and policies, and those systemic changes that we I talked about earlier, that can really, at the end of the day, advance the gender equality and empowerment of women in Nigeria.
I mean, you're right. Great question. I mean, and when I think about when you speak to a lot of people, their level of enthusiasm is not so big when it comes to International Women's Day. People were like, okay, what exactly, how does it impact me, right? What has changed? What are some of the tangible actions from where we were yesterday to where we're going to go? So these are very valid questions. But I think my hope is that International Women's Day is not a symbolic gesture, right? But it's an opportunity to catalyze on some of those initiatives to promote gender equality, right? It's about investing in women. So we talk specifically to maybe people in senior leadership, positions, whether it's a business or in government. Pretty much, asking them what are, in light of the gap, right? The shortfall in terms of what needs to be done to achieve gender, equality, whether it's in your company, on your particular sector. What are some of the specific initiatives you're looking to, put in place between now and, I don't know, 1 year, 3 years, to close that gap, so things like that, specific action, action points. You're going
Yeah,
to ensure
evaluating
that.
metrics and evaluation around having, and that's really putting the structure around this.
Yeah, putting a
Mm.
structure and framework around it. So it's okay to talk very high level, but are you going to ensure that every female and male employee in your company who have the same level of experience, qualification? I think you're going to ensure that they have equal pay. You know what I mean? Are you going to ensure that the maternity policy that you have in your company and paternity, is actually it meets the needs or requirements of people who actually need it? Are people taking it? Are women and men, are they being assessed on an equal footing? And then for the people at the higher level when it comes to policy making, right? you know Are people getting access to, right information? Women, are they access to land, technology, internet? I know there is a lot of, we have a new minister of information in Nigeria who's announcing a number of fantastic initiatives, right, to to bridge that gap. What are some of the targeted policies towards women? Because interestingly, significant number of people still lack internet, access, and it's a key barrier to be able to tap to opportunities, to even reach out, to businesses, to to apply for jobs, for opportunities, which could really transform their life. So, there is a lot that can be done, but to your point, it's about, putting together, a matrix, or putting together an accountability, measure to ensure that we are not going to be where we are, last year, a couple of years ago, and we will hope to make some, significant and giant steps going forward.
Yeah, so no, that's great. I'm talking about projects and programs where and events. We're having this interesting event on the 15th of March with 100 women in finance, women in energy network, and bringing in different stakeholders who would share interesting stories. And I'm happy to know that you're going to be the keynote speaker. So, and let's not discuss that issue of who should have been the keynote speaker or I should be the keynote speaker. But yeah, I'm happy that you're able to do that. So we look forward to listening to you on the 15th, and actually hoping that I know it's going to be a great event. So for those who are fortunate to be in the room, and who are part of the listening audience, yeah, we look forward to seeing you, and we're really happy to move this partnership forward. So I see that we're like 5 minutes before the final close of this. And Taiwo, is there anything you want to share? Anything you think that we've missed out, ahead of the 15th of March?
With regards to the event,
the conversation around International Women's Day, it's just really the white bucket.
No, I think it'll be interesting to know, in the room, we had discussed, it'll be good to get a sense of who are the people that are going to be in the room. It's going to be a mix of business leaders, a mix of companies, policymakers, just trying to understand the audience. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't really want people to take away. We're not doing this for symbolic reason, right? We hope that some of the conversations there would lead to some tangible actions from people. So I just get a sense of the people who are going to be in the room.
Yes. So we're going to have exactly those you have mentioned, business leaders, female CEOs, female diplomats, really high level at this point, because we know that we also have we're not going to have up to 100 women in the room. So it's really high level at this point, and hoping that we're able to share the updates of that, and maybe be a bit more digital savvy, techie savvy, or tech savvy to maybe live broadcast or live stream. But these are just thoughts around what we think could come out of it, because the ultimate thing is being able to leverage the resources from the event to share, and for people to understand and perhaps apply them as well to their existence. The learnings from their existence, and how they also can help empower people and be empowered. So yeah.
Okay. So in terms of the guests, you're expecting between 50 people, 50 to 60 people. What's the guest list number?
So right now, I think the initial plan was to have 50, but obviously we're running because there's been a lot of appetite around being in the room. So we've been having people reach out to say, okay, please, we would like to attend, and some people are not people you can really say no to, because you believe they are going to add value, not just because they get to the conversation. So we're right now it is looking like we're having about 70 people so far.
Okay.
Or sometimes 70 people would say they would come, and then at the end of the day, you may not have up to that. But we're really trying to hold back or hold down the number of guests in the room, because we have to be it's a very select audience, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, no pressure then,
Okay.
Margaret.
All right.
Okay.
So
No,
anything else you want to share about 100 Women in Finance? Is there any program you're doing this year that's targeted at women? Is there
Yeah,
any learnings? It would be great to share so that at least people out
yeah,
there will aware.
sure. So we had the Moody's event. So that was in
Yeah, I missed that.
yeah, that
Yes.
was interesting because it was it was in back of the revised positive outlook for Moody's for Nigeria. I mean, it was still junk rated, but hey, there was some positive in terms of how things could turn out if the current administration persists with their policy. We're working towards organizing like an April, like a 1 year anniversary event for 100 women. So that's something that we're planning. It's still all very early stage, so you will get invited to that. And I think what will be useful, Margaret, is with respect to women, I don't know what, one of the things would be useful be able to do maybe like a study. I know you've done something because I received your newsletter. You guys do a lot of advocacy, a lot of work around supporting a number of initiatives. So maybe we should think about what can we do with respect to women, we put together a study on gender index, gender equality. I mean, it sounds very, but I think that could be something that we could work, or you probably have more, resources than we do, because we're like volunteers on 100 Women, right?
We can always combine resources. I always joke about being a poor parent to very rich children.
Yeah. So something, so something tangible like that would be good, right? Like maybe like we could work towards putting together a research report targeting specifics. And I know I don't know what, isn't there like a minister of women in Nigeria now?
Yeah,
Is there something like?
yes. Somewhere between women and humanitarian,
Okay, so maybe
kind
we
of
don't want to
mixed
link it to
grill.
government.
But no. But you see, why I find this very interesting is, when I spoke with that's the president of the Women in Energy Network. This whole conversation about working on the research also bubbled up. So it is something that I know that I'm as a person interested, and I believe the council will be super interested, and we can work on this project because it's good to have, it's good to talk about, okay, this is what we think, this is what we know, but it's also good to have enough data, and through research, be like, super clear around, what this is, how we need to move forward. And research is, I always find it an invaluable instrument for further work, for further improvement, or at least something that you can move from intangible to clearly tangible outcomes. So it will definitely be on my mind, and I look forward to us, collaborating further on this project. And I would remind you, just in case we all get very busy.
Yeah, I think so. We could, the outcome could be something like a working paper or something, recommendations, right?
A white paper.
White paper
government,
to government, something.
Yes.
That could be
So
amazing.
we can bring in different partners. And the good thing is that we have a number of professional service companies that can actually support the work. KPMG, PwC, and then we can even bring in the Lagos Business School to kind of, because they work with us as partners on a couple of our projects, and so we can. I think there's a lot we can do, but yes, so that we don't. We can't spill everything out. This is our little secret. So yes, we do have the Federal Minister for Women Affairs and Social Development. That I can confirm for certain.
Okay.
So we do have, yeah. So again, perhaps we can even start off with some kind of engagement and move eventually towards having this research. Okay, we could go on.
Okay, no, I like that, Margaret. Okay, good. I like that. I think we're moving. Yeah, I would love to work on that.
Okay,
with you guys.
all right. Thank you so much. Yes, and so thank you for making our time to join us today. And to our listening audience out there, we're appreciative of what you hear from us and in the feedbacks you share with us, and we'll say you follow us constantly on our platforms, LinkedIn platform, on SoundCloud, Spotify, and all the other platforms that we use to socialize the conversations that we share on the podcast. So once more, Taiwo, thank you so much, and see you on the 15th of March.
Excellent. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Margaret and team. Appreciate the opportunity, and I'll see you.
All right. Take care.
Next week.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.